And joining us here in Washington, CBS News national security analyst Juan Zarate. Juan, nice to actually talk to you face to face, by the way.
Erica.
So as we look at this, Mark made an interesting point just at the end here when he said it seemed to show, these diaries seemed to show, he wasn't necessarily in direct control, but that Osama bin Laden was still somewhat in command.
I think what we have is a revelation that bin Laden was serving still as AlQaida CEO. He wasn't necessarily placing operatives in Western cities or directing the attack plotting per se, but he was still part of the strategic overlay of al-Qaeda, directing it toward the West, ensuring that the cohesion of the movement was focusing on the United States and really trying to give it focus in terms of mass casualty events. There
are actually calculations, apparently, in these diaries about those mass casualties. Did the math on some of them as to the impact.
That's right. I think what he wanted to do was clearly replicate the impact of 9/11, not just in terms of body count, which is part of the calculations, but in terms of strategic impact. Again, remember, bin Laden was the strategic thinker for al-Qaeda. He wanted to go after the United States to force U.S. withdrawals from Muslim lands in the region. And so that's what he wanted to do. He wanted strategic strikes. He didn't want pinpricks. He wanted things that were going to affect American policy.
But with all that focus on the U.S. specifically, not just the Western world, but on the U.S., did it actually take away from some of the other theoretical, at least, goals of al-Qaeda within the Muslim world?
It's a great question, Erica, because there's tension within the al-Qaeda movement between the regional groups, like the groups in Yemen and North Africa, Central Asia, and their local goals, versus this global Western-focused goal that bin Laden had been pushing. This was bin Laden's innovation in the 90s, to focus the global jihad on the United States. But that has caused tension among the groups in the network.
So did that make him at this point, or leading up to his death, more of a liability or an asset?
Well, I think bin Laden was clearly still an asset. He was the strategic thinker for the group. He was the glue for this global movement, the symbol of it in many ways. So I think he was still driving it. But there was tension and friction within the movement. And I think that's why losing bin Laden will lead to greater division and friction within al-Qaeda.
It'll be interesting to watch. We'll be watching along with you, Juan. Thanks.
Thanks, Erica.